What's up, my fellow boss babes, and welcome back to Ivy's OnlyFans. Today on my OnlyFans page, I am going to be showing you guys how to use all of the new products I got from one of the many businesses that I run all by myself as a boss babe, Pure Romance. You guys may know that Pure Romance is a sex toy pyramid scheme. Sex toy multi-level marketing company. I would never recruit you guys for a pyramid scheme, obviously. But I hope that you enjoy the content that I produce about this today on my OnlyFans. Something wonderful about my company, Pure Romance, which is definitely my company that I completely own myself, and is actually one of 15 companies that I completely own myself, in addition to Young Living Essential Oils, doTERRA Essential Oils, multiple Smart Circle scams, Smart Circle subsidiaries, and many other companies as well. Something very nice about Pure Romance, which is completely my company, is that we are very, very in favor of the LGBTQ community. In fact, every year we sponsor the Pride Parade in Cincinnati, and that's why this year I'm hoping to see all of you fellow boss babes at the Cincinnati Pride Parade showing me some of that Pure Romance pride. After all, nothing says pride for the LGBT community like supporting big companies. That's why I got this mug at Target that says, "Cheers, queers." I love supporting big corporations to help celebrate the LGBT community. You guys may not know this, but I'm actually a part of the LGBT community. A lot of people don't actually know what LGBT stands for. Today I'm gonna tell you guys what the B in LGBT stands for. It stands for Boss Babe! And that is what I am. I am a boss babe, and if you guys join my team, then I can recruit you too to become a boss babe and thus become part of the LGBT community along with me, while we all sponsor the Cincinnati Pride Parade together. Check it out, everybody! This is the Cincinnati Pride page. Cincinnati Pride is presented by Pure Romance. It is family friendly and a fun event. It takes place on the 4th Saturday in June, and it is provided by generous sponsors, one of which is the company that I own all by myself called Pure Romance. There are some very important safety tips that my company Pure Romance endorses at the Cincinnati Pride Parade, which I have sponsored all by myself. For example, you need to listen to police and Pride security. They're there to keep you safe. This is really important because the original Pride Parade, which happened back in 1969, took place because people needed to listen to police and security more. In fact, that Pride Parade was all about the importance of listening to big corporations like Pure Romance. It's also important to ignore any protesters and keep on marching and celebrating. Protests have no space whatsoever at Pride, because Pride is not about protesting. It is about big companies like my company, Pure Romance, capitalizing on the LGBT community. Being a part of the LGBT community. Many of you may not know this, but LGBT actually stands for lettuce, guacamole, boss babe, and tomato. That is what we're celebrating the Pride of this week. Very colorful, that's why they're a rainbow. And in case you're skeptical about joining Pure Romance, I just wanted to let you guys know that Pure Romance completely supports the LGBT community in every way, including in the way that we pay all of our consultants. As the CEO of this company, I personally truly care deeply that everyone is paid a fair wage. A lot of people like to bring up that the LGBT community is disproportionately affected by income struggles. And you know what? That is super, super important. And that is why, as the CEO of Pure Romance, I think it is super important that I pay everyone a great amount of money. And that is why we need to look over here at the income disclosure statement. See this? Every single senior executive director makes $219,000 a year. Isn't that incredible, just for selling sex toys? And that is 0.1% of the company. 0.1% is a huge percentage of the company when you take into account all of the distributors we have. That's a lot of people, which means there are a lot of people selling Pure Romance, which means that the market is definitely not oversaturated, and you could definitely join my team. Now, I know what you guys are all really here for, and that is my OnlyFans content, so I decided to combine a few of my entrepreneurial enterprises today. I am going to be using Pure Romance's new crystal-encrusted dildo while rubbing essential oils all over my...
Get you some nuts.
There was lots of memes.
Makes me wonder if I should take up lesbianism.
Chicago. You guys asked for it.
within the MLM world and the anti-MLM world and just everything related to these companies themselves and the discussion surrounding them, I feel like there's often not a lot of discussion about the LGBT community. And I mean, there's a decent amount of discussion about gender, and I think it comes down to the fact that I think that MLMs often target men and women differently. They use different tactics. And those tactics tend to be very rooted in like traditional gender expectations, because it'll be like, for men, they target them with like cryptocurrency kind of thing, where it's like, you could become a millionaire or a billionaire and you have your family be like the most alpha family of all time or whatever. And then for women, it targets the whole like, don't you want to be there for your kids while also not having your husband bring in all of the money? It targets that like the like corporate feminism kind of thing. So I feel like they target men and women in different ways, but there's not a lot of discussion then about, you know, outside of like heteronormativity, how these companies function and what kinds of things they do with that.
Right. Like it's very gendered ideas of success, but at least as far as I can tell, there's not a whole lot of, I guess, intentional targeting of queer people. Like, hey, you know, to gay men, for example, you know, you can bring home the bacon for your husband,
yeah,
or, you know, for gay moms. Hey, I don't know.
I'm here with Hayley, and Hayley is fantastic and is a counselor. So I guess just tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do and about your channel and everything.
Sure. So I am, yes, like Savvy said, I am a counselor, and I am also a queer person myself, which is kind of how Savvy and I got on this topic. I'm bisexual, I'm non-binary, and obviously I'm anti-MLM. So
yes,
thank goodness. It'd be a little bit funny if I wasn't, but I'm here because of that. I haven't been in an MLM myself, but I did end up doing my master's thesis all about MLMs and why they're bad from a psychological counseling perspective. So that, combined with my queer experience, I thought it'd be really cool to come on here and talk with Savvy about what that entails. My existing Instagram page is very anti-MLM. It's a little more established. So that's me in a nutshell.
I feel like we're very similar people, because I talk a lot about like mental health and mental illness and that kind of thing on my channel as well, and like how having OCD has affected my life and my worldview. And I think we have a lot of things that are important to talk about. And I think it's really cool how you did your master's thesis on like the psychological effects of MLM companies. I really want to, you know, delve more into that and read about that and everything, because that sounds fantastic. And I remember I did a live stream a while back where I was kind of talking about, you know, the misogyny that goes on. And I was also, this was before I had my debate with Scott, where I first kind of called him out for some transphobic comments that he had made toward Kimberlea, and how that was not helpful in any way, shape, or form to what anyone is trying to accomplish here, both within MLM companies and even within the anti-MLM movement, that I don't see a lot of discussion of the LGBT community or, you know, representation of it and that kind of thing. And I mean, I think that could come from the fact that MLM companies tend to play on, you know, a traditional heteronormative family, and they tend to play on gender expectations that people have. So it might be a little bit harder to market to people who are already in a way going against a socially prescribed gender expectation. So I wonder if like that might be part of it. Honestly, I think it could be. What we know about Pure Romance, right, is that it's a sex toy MLM. They sell a lot of sex toys for generally, like, you know, I would recommend, if everyone hasn't seen it, you watch Savannah Marie's 2 videos that she's done where she reacts to a video recording of a Pure Romance party, and you see what it looks like. And it does seem to be very based on like woman and man relationship. And it also, they have this whole thing, which we will read about on their website as well, about how there are no men allowed at the parties. It has to be exclusively women that you invite to the parties and things like that. And I think that does leave a little bit of like speculation surrounding, okay, what if you have, so like if someone is in a relationship of 2 men, could they wouldn't be allowed to come to the Pure Romance party because it's only for women. So if you have 2 women in a relationship, they could come to the pure romance party. However, if they both came to the pure romance party, that would negate their whole idea of like, we don't want both people in the couple here, you know? So it's like a little bit like, it seems to have been designed with the idea in mind that it is going to be a one man, one woman couple that comes to the pure romance party. Which, I mean, I'm not saying pure romance parties should be more welcoming. I'm saying pure romance should stop existing. So this is a post from 2018. Saying, Cincinnati Pride would like to introduce our 2018 presenting sponsor, Pure Romance. Pure Romance is a committed sponsor of Cincinnati Pride and the LGBTQ community and its allies. We are proud to partner with Pure Romance to create a more diverse and inclusive community here in Cincinnati. So Pure Romance is sponsoring Cincinnati's Pride. And what I think is interesting about this is that I think this leads into a whole topic of the Pride parades becoming so sponsored and so like corporate owned to the point where it's like I like stopped enjoying the Pride parades because I'm like, okay, I don't need to see every other float be for like a bank. Like I don't need people to throw like merch at people that is to advertise someone's insurance firm. Like this is stupid.
Yeah, it's completely, I think it's quite honestly, it's really taking it's like the point, I think, of Pride initially was to go against these institutions that were historically oppressive. And I think even today, some of these institutions are no different. So why they're sponsoring a Pride is beyond me. I mean, surely, you know, to look better, to get, it's that rainbow capitalism kind of thing they've got going.
Rainbow capitalism, that's the term, yes.
Sometimes I think about some of these places like the banks or the, you know, God, even Pure Romance right here. It's like, I think about, okay, if a Black trans gender nonconforming person, say, walked in and tried to use this Pure Romance product or tried to go into this bank, would they be treated fairly and appropriately, or would people still bristle at their presence? You know, it's
yeah, I found a blog post about that. So
oh my gosh, yes.
Here we go. This is on Tumblr on a page called Read to Know Basis. And it's called Pure Romance is Not Welcoming to the Transgender Community. So some people in the comments have said that they've had different experiences, so we'll talk about those as well. But this story is pretty awful. So this person says, so I was invited to a party by a friend of mine hosted by Pure Romance. I was looking forward to it since I am rarely able to get out of the house due to severe social anxiety, and that I have never had the chance to hang out with other girls in person due to being raised as male. As such, I was really looking forward to the opportunity to do so for the first time and be accepted as female for an all-girls party really meant a lot to me. Turns out that according to Pure Romance's rules, their no guys allowed policy extends to trans women as well, so they were not having it. Upon entering, I was there for a short while before their representative, Cherie Weiss, asked me if I was a man or a woman. I figure I should note that the only basis she had for this was because of my appearance, so chances are they also have a no ugly people allowed policy as well. So I naturally said I was a woman, so she, I kid you not, asked to see my ID. I naturally didn't have my ID with me because it's a fucking birthday party that I was invited to and it takes place in someone's house. So because of that, she said she needed to ask me to leave because Pure Romance, I'm not going to say that, but they do not allow trans people. That's what that says. So I decided to get up and leave, and I naturally gave Cherie the middle finger as I left, to which she responded that she doesn't blame me, but her business is more important than basic human decency. So I ended up waiting outside the house in 10 degrees Fahrenheit weather because I didn't have a ride back. I heard people yelling inside, and most of it had to do with between my friend Emily and her mother. Emily did not expect me being trans to be a problem, rightfully so. However, her mother was angry with her not asking Cherie beforehand and ending up with me humiliated and treated as inhuman for being trans. So yeah, in addition to me being treated like garbage, Emily felt horrible about what happened since she told me before that if anyone gave me trouble, she'd ask them to leave, but she didn't expect the people responsible for organizing the event would be responsible for doing so. And she was scolded by her mother, who was kind enough to drive me home. Before Emily and her mother, I should also mention both Emily and her mother, I should also mention, were pissed, by the way, and I highly doubt that they were the only ones that thought so. Once I got home, I simply decided to tell my dad that it didn't work out because I did not want to go through the effort of talking about what just happened. I honestly have to ask this. What would the risk have been to let me attend? So that was the original story. Then here's a reply to the story, which says, their trainer said if a trans woman was attending the party, as long as the other women are comfortable, it's okay. But, like, why do the other women have to be comfortable? Like,
Right,
you should be
right.
comfortable with everyone. And then, although I was trained to answer questions about vaginas, penile vaginal sex, anal sex, and the use of lubricant and sex toys, we were not trained at all to answer questions about transitioning or any other LGBT issues, and the verbiage we were taught to use was very hetero and cis normative. And then a few people down here say that they've worked with Pure Romance, and they did not have the same experience. So just so you know, as a disclaimer, not everyone in Pure Romance has had this experience. However, this is a very upsetting story. And also the fact that this person who worked at Pure Romance is saying that, you know, while their specific experience with Pure Romance was not transphobic, they did notice that there wasn't really any training regarding LGBT topics or trans topics or anything like that, which I feel like if you're going to be a sex company and your products are going to be all centered on the idea of having, you know, safe and healthy and positive sex experiences.
Yeah, I mean, and even for, you know, them as a business, like, not only from a human decency standpoint, but from a business standpoint, you are way better off being more inclusive and understanding that regardless of gender identity or sexual orientation, people are doing things beyond the, I guess, quote unquote, traditional vanilla sex. So being as open and affirming as you can be as a sex toy company, I think is vital. And especially since you're competing, not that I'm trying to give Pure Romance advice, you guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think about some of the other companies out there, and I mean, you're competing with people who are very, very LGBT affirming, very, very inclusive. So it's just, it's inexcusable.
I completely agree. And then I think there was, is it this guy? So Chris Ciccinelli. I don't know how to say his name. I'm sorry, Chris. Where is it? Down here. So Chris is actually supposedly a trans activist. Chris is the CEO of Pure Romance. And down here, it says, in 2018, in the wake of their 8-year-old coming out as transgender, Ciccinelli founded the Living with Change Foundation to help trans youth and their families. The foundation pledged $2 million to create a center of excellence and all of that. So it kind of sounds like now it's like, okay, Pure Romance's founder is explicitly not transphobic because he literally founded a charity to help trans people. So now I'm like, what's going on? And also, why is a man the CEO of Pure Romance? I'm just so lost at this point.
Yeah, that part. This is where my brain gets a little bit, the wires get crossed a bit because I'm like, dang it, bad company, bad MLM. And then, you know, good thing, but also what's the motivation behind this guy being behind a sex toy company? My brain's getting a little confused. Like, I obviously hope, you know, I'm a little bit of a consequentialist in the sense that I'm glad that LGBT issues are being cared for and foundations are being founded. Obviously, them being run appropriately is important too, but I'm also like, oh, why does an MLM have to be mixed in with all of this? Oh.
Right. So it's kind of a gray area. And I always find it weird also that it's like, he's the strategist behind the most successful woman-to-woman direct sales brand. It's like, but you are a man. And I'm also like, and I'm not saying, I don't want to gender discriminate at all, but I'm saying Pure Romance has founded itself specifically on saying this is a women-only space. Nobody who's not a woman can come to this party. And then the CEO of the whole thing is a man. That just seems weird. I'm not saying it's like, I can point to why it's explicitly wrong. It's just weird.
And is he the founder? I'm sorry, I can't tell if is he the founder as well, or is he just the CEO that kind of came into it? Because I'm like, it's weird either way, but if he founded this company with women to women,
it's his mom. This is the son of the woman who founded the company.
I like don't know if that makes it less weird or if it makes it weirder. Hey, son, I have a sex toy company.
Right?
Taking over. Like,
all the things you hear about pure romance is people always trying to sell sex toys to their relatives, and it being people posting things where it's like, so, like, my cousin just reached out to me to sell me sex toys. Like, this is weird, right? And it's like this mom handed a sex toy business down to her son. That is weird.
It's like, Judy, I am not going to sit here and talk about my vagina and orgasms and sex with you when
you are my relative. Yeah.
I'm like, me and your son are getting it on, right? Like, you really want to put that in your mind? Okay, all right. Didn't think so.
That's what really happened? He took his mom's company?
Yes, pure romance rabbit hole. Pure romance rabbit hole.
Pure romance continued to grow. Patty was joined by her son.
God, that is not, you don't want to join your mom and
join your mom's sex toy company? Like, that's weird.
I respect, if my mom wanted to start a sex toy company, I'd go, Mom, you do that. But I'm not gonna engage in too much sex toy discourse with her. That's just not not really where I'm at right now in life.
When I go off on how weird I think something is, there's always at least one or two people that are like, why would you say this is weird? This is totally normal in where I come from or something. And I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, but it's weird to me.
Yeah. And I think that's completely valid. Like, to each their own, right? Like, I think I agree with you. I'm like, look, just with the boundaries that I have with my parents, like, I would shrivel up and die if I had to do that. So I get it.
So then this blog post here was talking about, this person I think is promoting pure romance and was talking about having a party. This is just such a small thing that, like, even people I like do this a lot, but I just, since this is what we're talking about today, I'm going to complain. I hate how it talks about when people use the word girlfriend to describe friends. The word girlfriend has a meaning, and it means a woman that you're dating. And it's the same thing with, like, why, and here's the thing, people get, like weird about me complaining about that because they're like, it's not a big deal, you're just specifying that your friend is a girl, and it's like, but you wouldn't call your male friend a boyfriend.
Right,
and
right.
I personally think it stems from lesbian erasure, which is like throughout history, people have always thought like, I mean, I guess lesbians were able to be kind of stealth easier because two women living together, people would be like, oh, they were just really close friends. Don't worry, women can't have sex with each other. There's no way for that to happen because sex is about penises. And it's just like, that was like the social expectation for a while. But that's a problem, is that like people forget that female and female relationships exist. And so when people take the word girlfriend and try to make it mean friend, then suddenly when, like, I've seen so many times when, like, women who are in a relationship together will be like, oh, this is my girlfriend. And then someone will be like, oh, you two are friends? It's like, no, they're engaged, dude. Like, I don't know. I think it's weird. I don't like that at all.
I know. I think I've been burned one too many times as like a queer person to hear someone, say like either meeting someone and I feel like I'm meeting a fellow queer person, or, someone who maybe I had a crush on referring to me as a girlfriend and getting really excited only to find out that they're just heterosexual as hell.
Yes.
Burned.
I actually when I wrote my novel Sculpt Yourself, I addressed this topic in there of like, straight girls using language that is confusing to women who are interested in them.
Yes.
Which happens all the time in real life. Like constantly I'd be like, oh, I'm interested in this woman. And she might be saying, oh, I went out with my girlfriend last night. And I'd just be like, oh, maybe there's a chance or whatever. And there's no chance. She is straight. Or like, I've even heard women be like, oh my God, I have a crush on this girl. And it's like, don't say that if you don't mean that.
Right.
Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I just meant that, like, I really, like, admire her. I, like, look up to her. I think she is a role model. And no, don't say it that way, because you just give the rest of us hope.
Exactly. I think anecdotally, and again, I really stress this anecdotally, so I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but I do feel like that language that I like to call it Sappho and her friend language, so that like
yes!
women never like each other sexually, they're only just friends. I feel like that kind of stuff is so prevalent in MLMs because it's all about in a lot of cases, it's all about girl power and girl boss, and we all support each other, we all love each other, at least on the surface, right? And so there is that feigned intimacy, not intimacy, but like that feigned close friendship with women that is very erasing of actual queerness. And so like I feel like it would just be overload for me if I were to join an MLM, because I would constantly be confused about, is she gay? Is she gay? Is she gay? Do I have a chance with her? Do I have a chance with her?
Yeah, and that's the thing I think about too, is that like, I mean, in terms of like LGBT discrimination, especially when you're talking about specifically like women and men who are interested in the same gender as themselves, I feel like there's also types of social discrimination, like on maybe even on a small scale, that kind of targets them differently, because you have men on the one hand who are, society tells you never share your emotions, then it makes it like it makes them feel like more suppressed and more afraid. And then with women, you have people tell you always share your emotions. And so then you end up with a whole thing where it's like, I am in a perpetual state of, am I dating this girl? Did I date this girl? Is this girl interested in me, or are we friends? Just constantly, because I'm like, I don't know. It's like the closeness is considered like it's supposed to be normal. And that's how in an MLM, I feel like if I was constantly in that environment of like, you and all these women are supposed to get really close to each other, I would get really close and I would fall in love with all of them, and then none of them would love me, and it would just be rejection all day long, which is it's just life. You just get rejected all day long.
Definitely. And I really thought about this too. This is maybe a little bit off topic. I hope it's not too far, but I thought about like this sort of the idea, like all these gender roles and the ideas that men and women fulfill different things in different MLMs. I just remembered that I know somebody who is actually a gay man who was involved in Monate. And I won't say any, too much identifying information, obviously, but essentially from what he told me, the bottom line is that he kind of felt like, yeah, he was welcomed into Monate, but he felt like he was like the gay best friend kind of stereotyped in that way. And for some reason, I thought of that too when we're talking about like the language that is used in MLMs and how like, there's just not a whole lot of individualism that's always welcomed.
Yeah, exactly. That's how, yeah, no, I think what you're saying is completely accurate. But yeah, even just saying like that pure romance wants you to spend time with your girlfriends and things like that. To me, I feel like that, and maybe I'm overreacting to this, but it does definitely feel like a gendered term, that it would be like, why wouldn't you? I guess people are like, you call men your guy friends. It's like, yeah, but then you could use the phrase gal pal or something like that. Like right. Girlfriend means a woman you're dating.
It's very loaded. Like I have never in my entire freaking 31 years of life ever heard a dude, gay, cis, straight, what have you, ever say, I'm hanging out with my boyfriends tonight. Because that word boyfriend is so loaded and known to be the man you are dating. But why is it that girlfriend gets turned into a word that means my casual friend that I hang out with? Like, it's just...
Yeah, I really hate it, especially like when... And it's generally, I think, people who are in older generations who do this. I feel like a lot of younger people don't do this as much, but I really hate when people will be like, oh, Savy's hanging out with her girlfriend tonight. I'm like, no, unfortunately, she is not interested in me.
Unfortunately, she's not.
Yeah, just say ladies' night or something.
I think there's a little bit of me that looks at this and goes, again, no shade. This isn't a value judgment on this generation, but it reads to me as maybe it's boomer generation language where it's kind of like, talking about there are men, there are women, there are boys, there are girls. This is hanging out with our girlfriends and stuff. And I feel like our generation and generations thereafter are not really on that plane of like hanging out with my girlfriends. We think of girlfriend as the loaded term that it is.
And I think that especially when it comes to like the gender segregation right here, it's like pure romance parties are for women only, no boys allowed. We're committed to providing a safe and comfortable environment for women to learn about sexual health. Having men in attendance would make some women uncomfortable. Plus, you'll have more fun when it's just the girls. I don't know how I feel about this, right? Because it's like, first of all, I already have a complicated, like, first, I want to just say outright, the CEO of Pure Romance seems to actually legitimately be a trans ally, so I'm not going to say anything negative about him personally, other than that he runs a pyramid scheme and should be shut down for that reason. But that is the most of I won't say anything negative about him being transphobic or anything. I don't like gender segregation at all, and I know that that's kind of a controversial thing to say, but I'm of the mind where people have constant arguments, like the TERFs in the women's bathroom and all of that, and I'm like, I have been saying since I was a small child, this is one of the few beliefs that I have never once wavered on, that there is no reason to segregate a bathroom for any reason. It's a bathroom, guys. Put a door on the stall and then move on. Like, why would anyone care? And I'm gonna die on this hill because it's so stupid. So the whole idea of like women's, and then people ask like, should there be women's only prisons? And it's like, there shouldn't be prisons, but that's a whole separate topic too. So it's just like, I don't know how I feel about women's only spaces as a thing.
I know I'm 100% on like everything you've said. I'm like, yes. It just gets so like, when you think about what is a women's only space? Because I think for some of these TERF people and people who are so inclined, it's like for them, a women's only space isn't really a women's only space. It's like a cisgender woman space. And it's not even really a technically correctly applied term. Mm-hmm. And then there are like, and then when it comes to non-binary people, it's like, I think we're not even like a factor for some of these folks. It's like, there's just, whether you're cis or trans, some people just think of just men and women and that's it. But the reality is so much more complicated. It's like, might as well make it easy and just not gender segregate things. Like, honestly, people are going to be creepy if they're going to be creepy. So whether you segregate or whether you don't segregate, there are going to be, unfortunately, and I hope this never happens to anyone listening, but there are going to be people who maybe go into the bathroom with bad intentions, regardless of gender, or there are going to be people who go into a space with the intention of being creepy, regardless of gender. Yeah. And I'm like you, where I just don't really see the point of gender segregating. I think a better thing to do is make spaces safe for everyone. Yeah. I don't know if I'm making sense here.
I've always completely agreed with that. I think what you're saying is accurate. And I think what you said about like people viewing the world in terms of men and women, like I think that, people with intersex conditions have been such an erased minority because those people exist. I think people are coming to realize now that people with are intersex people or people with any form of like, intersex genetic variation is actually a lot larger group of people than a lot of people had originally realized. Yeah. And also that most people don't ever actually get their chromosomes sequenced. So there have been cases in the past where it's like, I don't remember what their name was, but there was a trans woman. And, she was assigned male at birth. She transitioned and it was a woman. And then she actually had to get her chromosomes looked at for something. And it turned out she had XX chromosomes the whole time, even though she was born with a penis. So it's like a lot of people don't realize that like sex itself is not just like one thing or another thing. There's even complications within that because the process of a whole human forming is very complicated and not everyone is going to fit perfectly into something.
Yeah, it's like these women-only spaces. Are they going to sequence your entire genome before letting you into the bathroom?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so much more complicated than people I want to think about it. Like, not even just gender identity, but sex itself, like you're saying. Sex itself, like, For all I know, I could have XY chromosomes.
Yeah,
like,
none of us have any idea unless you've actually had someone look at your chromosomes, which most of us have not.
Yeah.
And some people have, but like I assume I have two X chromosomes, but I don't have any evidence of that. I was talking about a safe and comfortable environment for women to learn about sexual health. Having men in attendance would make some women uncomfortable. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. And again, like, I feel like some people watching might disagree with me on this point, because some people might say like, yeah, having men in attendance makes learning about sex more awkward, but like, I don't know why. Like, maybe I'm just very oblivious to the world around me. People, first of all, are supposed to be independent consultants, so they're supposed to be able to do things independently. So theoretically, if you want to host a pure romance party, you should be able to be like, oh, my group of people doesn't mind if we have a variety of genders here. But someone else might be like, my group of people does mind. And then, like, if you're an independent consultant, you should be able to make that choice for yourself. Otherwise, you're not really a business owner, but, you know, we've established that with MLMs. What if someone who is non-binary or someone who is intersex or something like that wants to attend one of these parties? Are they allowed?
Right. Or is it...
Or will they say you are not? Will they say you are not a woman, so you can't come? Or will they say you are not a man, so you can come? Like, I don't know.
Right. Or you look enough like a woman. Like, I don't know. I'm thinking, like, you know, if I walk, I mean, look, I'll be very honest, and I'm not offended by this fact, but like, if I walk up into a pure romance party or any space, almost 100% of people are going to look at me and go, that's a woman. She's a woman. She sounds like a woman, or what have you. But if I told them, hey, I'm actually not a woman, I'm actually a little something in between, are they going to be like, oh, well, no, you're not allowed? Or are they going to say, well, you're not hard enough, you're fine, you're good? And then it's technically violating the women only space thing. So it just kind of points out how arbitrary it is. It's like, is this about women, or is this about conforming to womanhood, or like, what are you looking for? Or a trans woman who walks up and is, you know, and I hate this term, but the term passing, like, she walks up and nobody clocks her. It's like, I don't know. It's just so silly. Gender segregation is very silly, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah. And that's where it comes to, like, because at these parties, and again, I would recommend everyone watch a video Savannah Marie did reacting to these parties, because she really covers a lot of what goes on there. The parties are very focused on, like, female anatomy. They're very focused on, here's how the vagina looks, here is where you would put this sex toy. And like, they do talk a little bit about, like, at least based on those videos that she did, it was a lot of showing, like, here's a sex toy that you could use with your vagina. Here are some ways for women to have a good orgasm and things like that. But it's very dependent on, do you have the genitalia that the person assumes you have? Like, are you, and even if you were a trans woman who has had bottom surgery, it still might not function exactly the same way. So it just definitely still seems like it is this idea that you are a cisgender woman with a male partner that is going to this event. That's how it comes across.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, you know, and like, if on the off chance, like, the pure romance execs, like, see this video or other like, I guess, discourse around this topic in the context of their company, and they do change things, I'm like, I hope that LGBT people know it's still not a good idea to go for
right. That's why this video is a little bit like, I don't want people to think I'm saying, here are some things pure romance could do to make it
right.
I'm saying that, like, pure romance is an MLM, and that sucks, and like, MLM should not exist. But I think while they do exist, it is important to talk about some of these topics that exist within them, because I just don't hear a lot of people talking about LGBT topics related to the MLM world and things like that. So thanks so much for doing this chat with me. I'm excited to make it into a video.
Me too. Yeah, I'm really excited for it too. And yeah, thank you for taking the time, and thank you for talking to me about this. It was so much fun, and we obviously talked about it.
I remember when you mentioned, like, we were both mentioning on Instagram that we were interested in doing this topic. So it's like, yeah, let's make it together. Yeah, it'd be way more fun than separately. Yeah.
You know, and the stuff that you found was so interesting. It was such a good jumping off point for the topics that we were able to, you know, talk about so much. So thank you for that.
Thank you all so much for watching this video. I will see you guys all again next week. In the meantime, keep on supporting small businesses. This mug was cute at Target, but if you can find some LGBT-owned small businesses, I'll link some in the description below. That's where I've been trying to get all of my Pride Month merch. Support small businesses. It's a good way to support each other at this time of year. Bye, friends.
Get you some nuts.
There was lots of memes.
Makes me wonder if I should take up lesbianism.
Chicago. You guys asked for it.